This bread has a really soft texture with a hint of coffee flavor that is just perfect for breakfast. So first prepare the yeast, the walnuts, chop them up, you can add more if you'd like, and soak some raisins with hot water. So now let's make what makes this coffee toast. Dissolve a tablespoon of instant espresso powder to a tablespoon of water, then set that aside. Moving on to the bread, measure out 2 cups of bread flour. Please aerate the flour by stirring the flour with a spoon, then scoop some flour into a measuring cup, then wipe the excess off with a flat surface. This is very important since you don't want to get extra flour that results in a tough dough. Make 4 wells in the flour, then add a heaping tablespoon of white granulated sugar into one of the holes, then a half teaspoon of salt goes in, next a half tablespoon of dry milk powder or creamer powder, and lastly a teaspoon of instant dry yeast. Onto the liquid, you'll need a 1/4 cup of water plus a half cup of milk. You can also use a total of 3/4 cup milk. Then I microwaved it for 36 seconds at 1000 watts. Your timing may vary depending on your power. Basically, the liquid should be lukewarm and should feel hot but not burning when you put your finger in. So stir each of the 4 sections in the flour separately, then mix them all together. Now pour in your warm but not overly hot milk and water into the flour along with the instant coffee we made earlier. Now give everything a good stir with a wooden spoon afterwards, and it will look very dry and not integrated. Use your hands and just roughly mix the dough until the flour has absorbed most of the water and become a dough. The dough should feel a bit warm and quite squishy. So transfer that to a work surface and then just start kneading for 15 minutes. The dough won't necessarily be that sticky, so it's really easy to work with. What I like about bread is there's not really a specific rule for kneading bread. You just need to knead in the way that you're comfortable with and get it to the point where it's smooth. I like to use both hands to push the dough forward, then roll it back. After 10 to 15 minutes, the dough will be a bit tacky but less sticky. Now just flatten and spread the dough out. Scatter a tablespoon of butter that's really soft like this at room temperature onto the surface. And you just want to smear the butter around. Hold the sides of the dough together and close it up. Then continue kneading. At first the dough will feel messy and not proper, but keep on kneading, and after a few minutes the dough will get back to normal again. Once you put the butter in, the whole aroma of the coffee becomes very fragrant. You could also slam the dough onto the surface if that's easier for you to handle or knead the dough. After around 10 minutes, the dough has become smooth again. The more you knead, the more glutinous structure it's going to form, which is good. Keep kneading the dough for 20 to 25 minutes and it will get more elastic. To check if the dough is done kneading, use a window pane test. So pull a small part of the dough and stretch it out. If the dough rips quickly like that, then it is not ready. I'll show you what it should look like, and there are 3 things to look for. So the window pane test is basically stretching the dough, and if it rips quickly, then it is not ready. I kneaded the dough for another 5 minutes, and as you can see this time, I was able to really stretch the dough far out, and that is the first thing you are going to be looking for. Then you'll see it forms this really thin translucent layer like this here, and that is what you want to see. And one last thing is when you tear the layer, it will show a nice round circle, and that is not curved like this one here. It's a really round circle. When you've reached that, kneading is done. It took me about 25 minutes. As long as you knead for a decent amount of time, you can achieve this stage. After you're done kneading, shape the dough into a ball by tucking the sides underneath. You can see the surface is very smooth and pretty. It's also not sticky anymore. So put the dough ball into a bowl and cover it with a tea towel. Let it rise in a warm place, preferably a microwave, for 1 hour or until it doubles in size. After 1 hour or so of rising, use your finger and poke the middle of the dough. If the hole stays and does not spring back, then it is good to go. Punch the dough to release the gas and knead it again just for a minute or 2. The dough should feel firm but soft. Now divide the dough into 4 equal pieces and shape each piece into a ball by pushing up the center of the piece and tucking the sides underneath. Pinch the bottom and roll the dough piece into a ball like this. Then cover the 4 round pieces with the tea towel again and let them rest for 10 minutes. While they're resting, drain the soaked raisins. They will become more plump and moist. And then just use a napkin to remove any liquid. Now grease a loaf pan. I'm using some oil. After 10 minutes of dough resting, take a piece and use a rolling pin to flatten the dough into a long strip or oval. Spread a few raisins and chopped walnuts onto it and roll the dough up. Make sure you secure the sides as well. Do the same for all 4 pieces. Make sure you have equal amounts of raisins and walnuts in each piece. Place all 4 rolled up pieces into the greased loaf pan and let it ferment for the second and last time until it doubles in size again. To take about 30 to 35 minutes. Start preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit after the bread has risen for 15 minutes or so. After the second fermentation, the bread should have at least risen up to the brim of your loaf pan. Put the bread into the preheated 350 degrees Fahrenheit oven for 30 minutes. The top should also be browned, and here it is. After it's done, run a knife around the side and gently flip the bread onto the cooling rack to let it cool. And oh my goodness, the bread was super soft. The texture was almost like squishy buns. And when it was still warm, it was really soft like those bakery style bread, and it has a really nice smell to it too. And the walnuts and raisins paired really well with the coffee toast.